What is Gucci YouTube? It's your boy Black Uchiha 3 Long Face Skinny Pop D, and we are back, still black, of course, with some more fire Naruto anime manga content. Now, before we get into the video, you already know the dealio. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, smash that like button, share the video with your friends. We are talking about the one and only queen, Big Sarada Uchiha. So let's get to the business. Yes, sir. Ski. All right. So previously we discussed Ada, basically the development of her character throughout Naruto's Next Generation's run, and then I guess what you can pretty much say is the plot twist I see revolving around the character, however you look at it, whether it be a death with the character or some type of self-actualization or self-realization with her character arc or development. So if you haven't got a chance to, definitely check out that video. But today we are talking about none other than the Queen Sarada Uchiha, aka Surpassing Legends. Now, when it comes to Sarada's character specifically, it's very, very different. It has similar properties, but very, very different when it comes to Ada, whereas with Ada, it's more so understanding the character's desires and what she wants throughout the story and her coming to that realization as well. Whereas with Sarada, there's like a very, very big misunderstanding for the character herself. Now, I will say that for the fans, a lot of fans don't understand truly her character, and even very true for Sarada herself, coming to the recent realization over the last few chapters in the recent volume of how she truly feels about Boruto, the relationship she has, and how she values the bonds and connections with the others around her. Sarada is a very intriguing and interesting character, a very, very deep character. And I'm gonna be honest, right? I think a lot of the reasons why she's probably the most controversial character in the story is because she's a woman. And I really I ain't got nothing else to place on it, because a lot of the gripes and complaints can't really be found with male counterparts. Now, I'm not gonna justify as like that's the sole reason, but a majority of it, like if Sasuke just had a son, it'll be so like Sasuke is my favorite anime character. So if my favorite anime character is gonna have a child, of course I'm gonna support that child. And in the case for Sarada, it's not like her character is trash. If that being the case, it's just something that you would have to tuck to the side and just not worry about. But her character herself is amazing and extremely, like, it's scary how close she is to Sasuke in terms of being my favorite character in the whole, like, looking at the character herself, her come up and how she grown up, basically changing her perspective on life and the values and beliefs that she basically held on to earlier on. Now, it's very apparent that people, when it comes to Sarada, they want that typical crash out Uchiha vibe. Like, they think they're gonna get the typical edgy Uchiha that is always flaunting their emotions on their sleeves every single day and itching to basically stretch something, you know what I'm saying, trying to up the pole on somebody. But Sarada is very, very emotionally aware. She's very emotionally attuned and very emotionally aware of how she feels. It's just a matter of accepting those feelings when it comes to actually understanding the character. There are instances all throughout her youth where we can see glimpses of her being like, yeah, that's definitely Sakura's daughter, or yeah, that's definitely Sasuke's daughter, because we see how she acts based off of her emotions. And when it comes to actually dealing with Uchiha, that's very an important factor to take in whenever you're trying to come to any type of conclusion. Coming up, Sarada had a very, very strict ideal on life. And I think a lot of people confuse her character with what we're getting now, as opposed to what we got throughout her character arc and her growth, especially in part 1 of Naruto Next Generations. The values and beliefs that she held were more strict and more in line, I guess you could say, with the history of the Uchiha clan, understanding how the one solely responsible for this change of heart or this change of look in life with Sarada is none other than the GOAT himself, Big Naruto Uzumaki. So basically, without Naruto's interference, without him having this change of heart within Sarada's character in the Shin Uchiha arc, famously known as the Naruto Gaiden in the original Naruto volume manga, Sarada is here embarking on a true journey to find out who her heritage is, like where her heritage comes from, and basically who her true parents are. At this point in time, she had doubts about Sakura even being her real mother. She had doubts about her connections with Sasuke, and even if Sasuke and Sakura truly even knew or loved each other at that. So by the time we reach the end of the arc, we see that Sarada character actually learns about the bond and the connection that is shared between Sakura and Sasuke, and how she'll eventually grow to understand that, and that the love is what's most important in between them. And the proof is always there in the pudding based off of their actions. Sarada understands how truly valuable and important family is and can be. Now, prior to this lesson, prior even to this arc, right, one of the main focuses or perspectives that Sarada held on life was that basically, why should she care about anybody else or hold values or love for anybody else that isn't considered family, that isn't considered basically worthy of her love? Typical as you would see in the history of the Uchiha, they love hard and can hate even harder. Right, these are ideals and beliefs that she pushed on and brought up towards Sakura, ideals and beliefs she brought on towards even Naruto. And it was Naruto himself, ironically, who helped her shave off this type of way of thinking or this way of life, that how she viewed things. Funny enough, while she was on a self-discovery mission with her best friend in being Chocho. And Naruto lets her know, you don't have to just consider someone family or someone have to actually be your blood relative to share your love or care for them, right? Going back to the original teachings of chakra and ninshu and the bonds and connections that can be shared through those experiences. And out of this concept grows Naruto's original belief of his Hokage stance to basically treat and love the entire village as his family. Now, this is where the divide comes in with Sarada's character, because she quote unquote takes Naruto's teachings and lessons to heart, right? I don't want to say necessarily in a negative light, but she holds on to those things in a kind of negative way that ultimately hinders her as opposed to strengthening her and propelling her forward, rather than actually blocking her potential and holding her back. Sarada goes on to essentially resolve herself to become the Hokage, to grow up to become this leader type figure. And in order to pursue that, she ultimately denies her feelings. She denies the romantic potential that she may or may not hold with Boruto, which we come to find out she actually does hold these feelings, and believes that anything frivolous or unnecessary in that regard is ultimately going to hinder her goal or her path to becoming Hokage. You see, within her eyes, the figure that Naruto essentially is, everybody inside the village deserves his 100% love. Everybody within the village is considered his family. Now, Naruto himself is not God or Jesus Christ, but Sarada took these type of examples set by Naruto, believing that she wouldn't have any time to pursue any type of personal relationships, connections, bonds, or any type of fallacies in life that ultimately doesn't necessarily connect or lead to her becoming a Hokage. And that's the irony when it comes to her character specifically dealing with this circumstance, because it's not until Tubu Vortex, understanding and realizing her own feelings, she will be able to reflect on the light of her perfect role model. This guy Naruto, who, yes, is the ideal Hokage, yes, lives up to his words and potential in treating the entire village as his family and loving everyone within the village and protecting them first. However, he has a personal life. He has a wife. He has 2 children. He took time out of his life in order to pursue these other things, so he has something to fight for. So ultimately, Sarada's perspective on life changed very early on in her academy days, right? And it wasn't until we get into Tubu Vortex that she truly understands that change and that decision she decided to make within her life. And it's evident throughout a majority of part 1, how Sarada as a character is feeling slowly pushed out. Inverse and outverse. We have fans complaining, where is Sarada during this situation? Where is Sarada during that situation? Why isn't Sarada using her Sharingan right now? Or why isn't Sarada using her Mangekyo Sharingan at this current point in time? These complaints and gripes, along with the small Easter eggs throughout the majority of part 1, lets us understand as well, with the confirmation in Tubu Vortex, that Sarada herself as a character is dealing with self-confidence and a self-conscious issue. So not only are the fans having these gripes and complaints, but Sarada is having these gripes and complaints. She's feeling slowly left out, slowly pushed out of the circle, right? And Boruto is in the middle of having his life change right before her eyes. He's in the middle of dealing with Momoshiki. He's been in the middle of dealing with Ishiki. All of a sudden, he's the main target of this Kara organization group, right? Sarada herself admits that life is just seems to be throwing unfair curveball after unfair curveball at Boruto, and somehow, some way, she seems to be right in the middle of it, yet still overlooked. Because if you don't have the strength, right, or the resolve to help out in a situation, well, then why would anybody even come to you for assistance or help? So going back to that conversation that Sarada had with Mitsuki, and they both declared that they need to be strong enough in order to face Otsutsuki threats so that Boruto and the others can rely on them and they can't be looked at as a possible obstacle or a hindrance in the heat or in the midst of battle. In a lot of these situations, a lot of these moments for Sarada's character, these defining moments, it's always her emotions, either her love for Boruto, her care for others, or her love in general. It's something that's brought up with Mitsuki, whether it be with Sumire, always mentioning how she has some type of feelings or some type of potential feelings for Boruto. Now with Sarada, the issue was never understanding her feelings, as we discussed in the previous video, with Ada as more so accepting her feelings, something that she knew or she truly understood. However, deep down, she shoved all of these feelings, she shoved all of these thoughts to the side because she believed them to be weaknesses. She believed them to be obstacles. She believed them to be hindrances, as opposed to actually strengthening her and allowing her to propel herself forward in all of these endeavors she wants to pursue in life. So throughout the story, we understand that essentially Sarada is feeling left out. And the only thing that propels those feelings even more forward is the introduction of Kawaki, Boruto's Karmasu, the leaps and bounds and jumps of power that they were making and leaving her and Mitsuki behind in the blink of an eye. You go from being one of the top, if not the top dog in the Ninja Academy in your beginning days to all of a sudden not even being considered an asset in the midst or in the middle of a mission that requires the complete assistance of your long life friend and potential love interest being in Boruto Uzumaki. So in her eyes, at this point, why her help isn't considered, why she's always seemingly being overlooked, is because, well, her strength is not there. She has not reached the level of goal, the level of power that she set her goal out to actually be. And ultimately, all of these situations and scenarios just lead Sarada to pushing down these feelings even further and further, to the point where she completely rules out any romantic feelings for Boruto, where she rules out any possibility of her feeling that way, and just chalks it up to the fact that they've been on so many life or death missions together that her heart has no choice but to flutter every time she thinks of this guy Boruto. So she decides to try to pursue strength, to try to achieve her goal in her own light, in her own way, which ultimately weakens her or dampens her ability to become stronger and to become that figure that she can see herself eventually becoming within the future. And funny enough, one of the things that we actually learn from her uncle himself being in Itachi and then eventually see Naruto grow to embody is that you don't become Hokage and then make everybody acknowledge you or accept you. No, you gain your merit, you gain the status, you gain the love, the trust, and the support of the village. And these are the results of your path and goal to ultimately end up becoming Hokage. The Hokage ends up being the one who was accepted, trusted, and loved by everyone within the village. So these are the type of things that Sarada eventually has to grow to learn and understand. And I believe there's much left to be desired. She has a very hard life in front of her with her history as an Uchiha, her father's history. So there's going to be a lot of trust to gain and a lot of bonds to eventually build throughout her path, right? Understanding that the path that Naruto walked was not one of shunning and blocking out those around him, but rather embracing and accepting those roads. So once she starts embracing those ideals and looking at life in a new light, in a new perspective, that is going to be how much closer she will be to her ultimate end goal in being a Hokage and a great ninja, just like Naruto. I believe we have more emotional growth coming for the character Sarada, and I also believe she is on the path of surpassing all of the legends and all of the greats that came before her. Let me know your thoughts and how y'all feel about it. Ultimately, it's your boy Black Uchiha. Holla at your boy. I'ma holla at y'all. Black Uchiha out. Yes, sir. Ski.